Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Gentech PC product showcase. In today's full-length feature review, we'll be going over the brand new Sager NP8952. This particular model is going to be Sager's entry into the 15.6-inch thin and lightweight gaming laptop category. The name of the game in this segment is to have a laptop much more powerful than a business class laptop, but not nearly as big or as bulky as a high-end gaming laptop, somewhere in the middle, and we'll see how well it does throughout the review. So, one of the very first things to take a look at is going to be our connectivity options on this laptop. On the right-hand side in the front, we start off with our two audio connections, one for your microphone and one for your headphones, a standard USB 3 port, our multi-card reader, the RJ45 port for your local networking connectivity, and your Kensington lock port. To the rear of the unit, we do not have any connectivity here, just the exhaust for the cooling system. Over on the left hand side, we have our power adapter, the HDMI output, two mini display ports, and two USB 3.1 Type-C connections, and then two more USB 3.0 ports. Now as we make it all the way back around to the front of the unit, there's no connectivity here either, but this is where you'll find your status LEDs. Now on the scales, the NP8952 comes in at 4 pounds and 12 ounces when it's weighed by itself. And of course, for any extended trips, you'll need your power adapter as well. With the power adapter brought in, we're going to be at 6 pounds and 8 ounces as your total travel weight. And real quick, here is a close-up of the power adapter. It's a nice low-profile form factor, so it will fit into a bag easier. And your total wattage output is going to be about 180 watts. After having taken the weight of the laptop, the next thing to do is to go ahead and take the measurements. So we do have coins up here for scale, and of course our ruler has the measurements. The back of the laptop is close to 3/4, almost 1 inch in thickness. The front is just a little bit lower than that. So it's close between the 3/4 inch and 1/2 inch mark. And the very last pieces of the laptop on the outside to take a look at is going to be the HD webcam at the top of our screen, the screen itself, which is a 1920 by 1080p IPS panel, and of course our keyboard. This is a low profile chiclet style keyboard with integrated LED RGB backlighting. The full keyboard layout with the embedded arrow keys. And towards the front center area is where you're going to find the large touchpad with the left and right click buttons that are separated, so those are easier to get to. Also, for anybody who needs the feature, it does have a manual override on the touchpad. That way you don't accidentally move your cursor around while you're trying to type. So for the RGB backlit keyboard, that's all controlled in software. So here's a quick look at that software control so you can see how we set that up. So well beyond just keyboard lighting control, we do have lots of other built-in software options. So here in the main control center, We can control our power features as far as power savings or high performance. We can disable and enable many things such as the built-in camera. We can control the Windows key, whether or not we want to have that on or off. Manually override our fan speeds. Lots of different little settings to tweak the system so that it's quite customizable, and it gives you the type of setup that you're trying to use this for. So if you're going for high-end gaming, you might max out the fan speeds and keep the temperature down. If you're going for a long business trip, you might kick on the power save mode. That way your battery doesn't run out while you're away from a place to plug it in for a while. The layout of everything makes it very easy to use it, so you just dive right in and you'll find what you're looking for. Definitely everything is self-explanatory and very much upfront in what you would expect in a laptop like this. After having covered the outside of the laptop, the next step is to cover what's on the inside as far as hardware. So we're not let down by anything here. We do see we have the newest Core i7-7700HQ for our CPU. NVIDIA has provided our dedicated graphics card with the GTX 1070 mobile version with a full 8 GB of GDDR5 memory on there. Our monitor information, if you want to Google the panel, this is a very nice IPS panel. So while we only have the 60 Hz refresh rate and the 1920 by 1080p resolution, we do get really great color reproduction, as well as those better view angles that you might want to have if you're trying to watch movies or share a laptop screen with other people. For those who have been around for a while, we all know that Creative was one of the very first to bring high-end audio to our computers with their Sound Blaster series of audio cards. So here we are, we have the Sound Blaster X in the Sager unit with a really nice high-end piece of software to control everything. So if we get in here, we can really tweak up the sounds to sound exactly the way you want. So you want really great immersion for 360-degree audio in a video game, or you want great A/B stereo for listening to your music. You can pretty much get in here and get it to sound exactly like that. So the device manager was for us to look at our hardware. Now it's time to move into our benchmarking section so we can see what the hardware can do. Now we're going to get our controlled temperatures right now. So the system has about low 60s on our CPU and at low 40 for the GPU without any benchmarks running. The other controls that we're going to take is we're going to be taking our temperature and audio test. So here is the current audio test, the system at an idle state. Now these readings are not very useful on their own. The best thing to do is to just take a look at what we have here and go compare it to another similar system in one of our other reviews, and you'll be able to tell if this system is louder or quieter than those other systems based on the same readings. And it's time to get our at idle state control temperature readings as well. So as you can see, the system actually looks like it's releasing a lot of heat through the keyboard, which is good. That helps keep the system cool. And you don't really notice that when you're using the keyboard with your hands. Where you will notice it is if it's hot where your palms will be resting. That tends to give you sweaty palms. The other thing you want to look for is that it is hot in the back where the exhaust should be. And that means the system is getting rid of the heat, so that's actually a good sign. Now this particular laptop, instead of seeing a couple of hot spots where the main exhaust vents are usually on the left and right side, it's almost completely across the unit. It seems to be releasing heat from a lot more areas, and that might help keep the system cool. So we'll have to see once we actually run our benchmarks how the loaded temperatures come out to be. So that testing is now underway. We have 3D Mark Firestrike running. While that's running, we can go take some of our other readings. So we'll go revisit our sound test. With 3D Mark Firestrike running, the sound has gone up quite a bit from the fans now spooling harder to keep the temperatures down. But these are still within the normal ranges. Nothing that would actually bother you in any room with any ambient noise. Now revisiting the thermal readings, the computer being under loaded state has actually changed the way things look here. We see now instead of a straight band of even heat that we see hotter temperatures on the left side looking from the rear versus the right. And we'll probably find when we take the system apart, that's because this side of the laptop is handling the GPU versus the other side handling the CPU. And the GPU is under a heavier load and a little bit harder to cool. Our keyboard lighting up nice and warm, showing that it is getting rid of heat for us. And our palm areas are still nice and cool to the touch. Our benchmark has finished and the scores are in. 3D Mark Firestrike got a score of 12,097. That's a really good and very respectable score for a laptop like this. So we're going to go look at our temperatures now and see how the system handled cooling things down. And this is where we can find a lot of great variances between this system and others. So the CPU, quite a bit of change here. 81 degrees Celsius on one core and 86 on the hottest. That's nice and cool actually as far as the CPU goes. Now for the video card, it went up from 40 degrees Celsius at the idle state up to 72 degrees under the load from the benchmark. And that's also a very nice cool temperature. The NP8952 is definitely getting top marks as far as the cooling system. Continuing along with more benchmarks, we're going to be running Cinebench R15. So we'll let this run through the predefined loop, and that will give us our frames per second as far as how fast our system could render this out. So score in for OpenGL is 97.61 frames per second, and the CPU got a 739 Cinebench score. Next, the test of the speaker volume levels. So with most of our review complete, it's now time for us to move into our final segment, and that's going to be the disassembly of the laptop. Starting off, we can see we have two very clearly marked areas where we see a keyboard. So two screws to remove here, and that's actually going to be releasing the keyboard on the other side. For actually removing the keyboard, it will lift just right up from the back side, and it's hinged on the front with some tabs, but be very careful about the ribbon cables connecting it. Now with the keyboard removed, we do see we get access to some other screws that we'll need to take out for disassembling the laptop further. Now to get further into the system, we've gone back to the bottom side and removed all the other perimeter screws. With everything taken out, the whole bottom panel will come off and reveal all the internals of our laptop. We see our 3-fan cooling system, 2 fans connected to our GPU, and a single fan connected to our CPU, our system RAM slots near the center, our 2.5 mass storage device, and our M2 form factor SSD, our internal battery, our CMOS battery, and our wireless network adapter card. In the interest of having a detailed review, we're also going to do a detailed disassembly. So we're going to take out more screws so we can actually take the cooling system apart. So the heat pipes that cover the GPU and the CPU are now going to come off. And here goes our M2 form factor SSD. Our 2.5-inch mechanical drive. And that pretty much covers a detailed disassembly, short of taking the smaller things out like the RAM and the wireless card. So with the end of our disassembly, we must also unfortunately bring our review to a close. We do hope that everybody enjoyed the video and was able to find it entertaining and educational. If you had any questions the video didn't answer for you, feel free to ask those down below in the comment section. For those who need one-on-one help and need to ask us questions directly, feel free to ask us those by phone or email. Take a look in the video description where you're going to find the product page link, and in that page we have the current pricing and availability as well as the full system specs. We just want to say in closing, thank you very much for watching. This was GenTech PC, and we'll see you next time.